Title: Believing they were alone. The galaxy's Deathworlders encounter humanity, HFY, Sci-Fi stories. The galaxy had long been a dangerous place. From the burning deserts of Volgrax to the freezing, hostile wilderness of Terex 5, there were worlds teeming with life, but each life was a predator, a force of nature to be reckoned with. In the universe's most perilous corners, a species known as the Deathworlders had evolved, creatures capable of surviving in environments that would annihilate lesser beings. The Deathworlders were not merely survivors, they were conquerors, rulers of their domains. They held dominion over their planets and believed themselves to be the ultimate apex predators of the galaxy. The Grak, towering beings of muscle and ferocity, roamed their volcanic planet, where lava rivers and seismic storms were a constant threat. The Tren, a species of highly intelligent, telepathic beings, could manipulate gravity itself, turning any environment into their personal weaponized domain. The Tsar, a race of chitinous creatures, could survive on a barren moon where oxygen was scarce and radiation would melt most biological life forms. They had long since assumed that they were alone in the universe. None of them had ever encountered another species that could challenge their supremacy. The galaxy was their domain, and all others were beneath them. Then came the humans. At first, they were a curiosity. The ancient alien races, those who had seen stars burn and die, scoffed at the idea of humans traveling between worlds. A fledgling species, they thought, just beginning to scratch the surface of space travel. Little did they know, humanity's journey had only just begun, and they were about to face an entirely new kind of danger. Humanity was, by every measure, a peculiar species, small and fragile by Deathworlder standards. Humans had evolved on a planet where predators were few, and nature was relatively forgiving. But what humanity lacked in physical strength, they made up for in cunning, adaptability, and, most importantly, determination. The first human ships that arrived in the galaxy were nothing more than small, unassuming crafts, distant and primitive by the standards of the Deathworlders. But as the human ships entered the domain of the Deathworlders, something changed. The Grak were the first to encounter humanity. A fleet of human vessels approached their planet, unaware of the volcanic horrors awaiting them. The Grak waited with eager anticipation, believing their enemies to be fragile and easily dispatched. They sent out a warship to engage the humans, confident they would crumble before their might. What they didn't expect was the sheer audacity of the human ship. With no regard for the dangers of the molten planet below, the humans launched a counterattack, navigating through the storms of fire and ash with unimaginable precision. Their technology was a marvel, their tactics unconventional. In mere hours, the Grak's ship was disabled, and their soldiers, battle-hardened and used to dominance, were taken prisoner. "Who are these creatures?" the Grak commander asked, bewildered. They had never met anything like the humans before. "We are humanity," came the calm, unwavering reply from the human captain, "and you have underestimated us." The Tren were next, telepathic and immensely powerful. They had always seen themselves as the keepers of the galaxy's hidden wisdom. They did not believe in physical confrontation. They spoke to their enemies' minds, manipulating gravity and space to bend them to their will. When humanity's fleets began encroaching on Tren space, they tried the same tactic, sending telepathic waves into the minds of human commanders. They tried to induce terror, to drive them mad, to make them crumble. What the Tren didn't anticipate was humanity's defense, a mental shield, not born of psychic power, but of sheer human willpower and defiance. Humans didn't bend to fear. They fought back with technological ingenuity, creating countermeasures that nullified the Tren's telepathic reach. "Your mind games will not work on us," the human general broadcasted across their ships. "We are not afraid." The Tren, for the first time in their existence, were struck silent. They had never met an enemy who resisted their power so completely. Finally, the Tsar encountered humanity. The Tsar were an ancient, deadly race, able to thrive in environments that would kill other beings. They viewed themselves as the ultimate survivors, cold, calculating, and utterly without mercy. They had watched the humans' rapid rise and dismissed them as a curiosity, nothing to worry about. However, when they began to make contact with the humans' outer colonies, they soon realized the humans had a knack for survival as well. In a brutal conflict on a hostile moon where the Tsar had long maintained their dominance, humanity once again proved their resilience. Their forces, using a combination of guerrilla tactics and superior technology, overran the Tsar strongholds, capturing their leadership and leaving them in disarray. The Tsar, stunned and weakened for the first time in millennia, had to face the undeniable truth: humanity had come for their throne. With each new victory, the galaxy's Deathworlders began to see the truth. The humans were not like any species they had ever encountered. Their strength was not in their size or their native environment, but in their ingenuity, their unity, and their unyielding spirit. The Deathworlders had ruled for centuries, convinced that no one could challenge them. But they had never met humanity, the species that refused to bow, refused to break, and refused to die. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. End. Title: Believing they were alone. The galaxy's Deathworlders encounter humanity, HFY, Sci-Fi Stories, Part 2. The news spread quickly across the galaxy. The Deathworlders were no longer the supreme beings of the universe. Humanity had not only survived against all odds, they had thrived, and they had conquered. The ancient races that once ruled their domains with an iron fist now found themselves uncertain in the face of a new and unpredictable force. For the first time in their history, they faced a threat they could neither understand nor easily eliminate. The Grak, Tren, and Tsar had each underestimated humanity's potential, but the ripple effect of humanity's victories reached far beyond these encounters. Soon, even other, less hostile Deathworlders began to take notice. The Korvan, a species of massive, amphibious beasts with an ironclad resistance to toxic atmospheres, had long considered themselves the dominant life form of their swampy homeworld. Their ability to survive in environments that would suffocate or drown any other species had kept them isolated, secure in the belief that nothing could challenge them. But when humanity's fleet arrived, the Korvan found themselves staring down an entirely different kind of force. The humans didn't immediately attack. Instead, they observed, studying the Korvan's intricate biology and their swampy ecosystems. Over the course of several months, the humans deployed a series of unmanned probes to map the planet, gathering data on the Korvan's physiology, their resistance to toxins, and their behavior patterns. As the Korvan expected, humanity appeared as little more than an inconvenience. Then the humans did something that no one expected: they showed mercy. Instead of an invasion or a campaign of destruction, humanity initiated a series of negotiations, proposals for trade and mutual defense, and most importantly, a way to coexist. The Korvan, initially wary, soon realized that this was not an act of weakness, but of strength. Humanity offered something none of the other Deathworlders had: peaceful coexistence, built on respect, shared knowledge, and an understanding that power was not just about dominance, but about survival through cooperation. In a grand meeting held in the Korvan capital, the human ambassador, a young woman named Captain Alara Quinn, spoke with a calm yet resolute voice. "We don't have to dominate you, Korvan," she said. "We just want to work with you. We've learned to thrive by helping each other, finding strength in unity. We've fought our wars, but we've come to understand that the future of our species is not in defeating others, it's in building something greater than ourselves. We're not here to take over, we're here to offer an alliance." For the first time in centuries, the Korvan saw beyond their own pride. It was a humbling moment: an alien species, once thought to be insignificant, offering the opportunity to reshape the future of the galaxy. The message was clear: humanity was not only a force to be reckoned with, they were a force that understood the importance of adaptability and survival through unity. And it was that very adaptability that sent ripples of fear through the galaxy. The Tsar, who had once dominated a barren, toxic moon with their unparalleled ability to endure extreme conditions, now found themselves facing a strange dilemma. Humanity had offered them the same deal: the opportunity for mutual growth. But unlike the Korvan, the Tsar were a people bred for war, their culture built on endless conquest and expansion. They could not fathom a future where they did not stand at the top of the food chain. Yet, as humanity's power grew, it became increasingly clear that the Tsar's old ways were obsolete. Their ability to survive in harsh conditions meant little when they could no longer control their own resources, no longer intimidate weaker species. Humanity's quick adaptation to environments and their relentless drive to improve technology put them on a path to supremacy, not by brute force, but through ingenuity and collaboration. The Tsar leadership knew it was only a matter of time before humanity would turn their sights on them. "We are not like you," the Tsar Queen declared in a rare assembly. Addressing her people, "They offer peace, but peace means surrender, and surrender means we lose everything we fought for." Despite the Queen's words, a growing faction of younger Tsar, those who had seen the benefits of human cooperation in action, began to question their traditions. The death of old ways was inevitable. Humanity's vision of a united galaxy, where strength was measured not by cruelty but by innovation, was starting to win even the hardest of hearts. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Tren were facing a crisis of their own. Their telepathic powers had once made them the undisputed masters of influence and control. No species had ever dared resist their psychic dominion. But humanity had revealed a terrifying truth: there was a power greater than psychic might, human will. Though many Tren still believed in the superiority of their psychic gifts, others were beginning to reconsider. Humanity had not only resisted their control but had also turned the tables by using technology to defend against it. The Tren's telepathic attacks had left their victims in a haze of confusion, but humanity had found ways to shield their minds, turning what was once their greatest advantage into a weakness. As time passed, a new, quiet revolution began to take place. The Deathworlders, the once untouchable predators, had begun to see humanity for what they truly were: a species that could not only survive but evolve beyond their limitations. In every encounter, humanity demonstrated that there was more than one way to win a war. It was not through brute force, but through adaptation, innovation, and, most critically, the ability to build alliances instead of destroying enemies. For the Deathworlders, this was a bitter pill to swallow. They had lived for millennia as the apex predators, and now they were learning to their horror that a smaller, more fragile species had not only found a way to survive in the galaxy, they had found a way to thrive. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the center of it all. The Deathworlders' long-held belief that they were alone at the top was shattering. Whether they liked it or not, they had to face the truth: the galaxy had a new power. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity was no longer a fledgling species. They were the future of the galaxy. And the Deathworlders, for all their might, were just beginning to learn that they were not the only ones who had mastered survival. End of Part 2. Title: Believing They Were Alone. The Galaxy's Deathworlders Encounter Humanity, HFY, Sci-Fi Stories, Part 3. The galaxy, once a realm of unimaginable dangers, was now on the brink of a transformation. The Deathworlders, the once proud and dominant species, had been forced to acknowledge that their position at the top of the cosmic food chain was no longer guaranteed. Humanity, with its unrelenting drive for survival and unparalleled adaptability, had shattered their misconceptions. The galaxy was no longer their exclusive playground. It was a stage for a new, unprecedented order. Though the galaxy trembled beneath the weight of these revelations, the true test was only just beginning. Humanity's actions had caused ripples, but they hadn't been the only ones to notice the changes. A new, unexpected force was emerging from the depths of the galaxy: the HFY, an ancient race of nomadic, biomechanical beings who had spent centuries in the shadows, traveling between worlds with their mysterious technology. Few had heard of them, even fewer had encountered them, but their arrival signaled a new chapter in the galactic struggle for dominance. The HFY were unlike any species the Deathworlders had ever encountered. Their biomechanical nature allowed them to adapt to any environment. They could survive in the vacuum of space, in the intense gravity of gas giants, and even in the crushing depths of black holes. Their technology was far beyond what anyone else had achieved, able to manipulate space and time. They could create wormholes, reshape entire planets, and weaponize entire solar systems. For the HFY, the rise of humanity was both an opportunity and a threat. They had watched with interest as humanity overcame the Deathworlders, their rapid rise through the galaxy both intriguing and alarming. To the HFY, the Deathworlders' arrogance and cruelty had always been an annoyance. But humanity was something different. Their rise wasn't built on brute force or mastery of nature's harshest conditions. Humanity's strength lay in something far more dangerous: their limitless potential for growth and change. The HFY Council convened, and the decision was made: they would meet the humans. The encounter took place on a remote planet, one of the IRVAL's floating colonies hidden from the prying eyes of the Deathworlders. The humans, having learned of the IRVAL's existence through their expanding intelligence network, sent their most skilled diplomats and military leaders. Among them was General Caleb Wright, a veteran of the earlier campaigns against the Deathworlders, and Dr. Ilara Quinn, the same ambassador who had successfully negotiated with the Corvon. As the human delegation arrived, they were met by the IRVAL in their full biomechanical form, towering figures made of sleek, metallic bodies interwoven with living tissue. Their faces were entirely featureless, their eyes glowing with a dim, unsettling light. They spoke not in words, but through complex neural interfaces that linked directly to the minds of their audience. General Wright stepped forward, his voice steady and firm. "We are humanity. We've come to speak with you." The IRVAL didn't respond immediately. Instead, they probed the minds of the humans, seeking to understand their motivations, their desires, and their weaknesses. Humanity had intrigued them, and they sought to know just how deep their potential truly went. Their shared understanding of survival, of adaptation, was something the IRVAL had never encountered in such a form. In the silence that stretched between the two groups, Dr. Quinn spoke next, her voice calm, almost soothing. "We don't want to fight, but if you intend to dominate us, you will see that we will not be subdued. We've learned, over and over again, that survival means more than just strength. It means working together. It means adapting." The IRVAL paused. Their minds, capable of perceiving entire star systems at once, began to consider the implications of humanity's words. In all their centuries of existence, the IRVAL had never encountered a species that didn't just want power for power's sake. Humanity was not driven by a lust for dominance. They sought to understand, to innovate, to grow. It was a foreign concept, even to the IRVAL, who saw themselves as the pinnacle of evolution. Finally, the IRVAL spoke, their voices reverberating within the minds of the humans. "You are not like the others. We see your potential. You could become a great ally or a great adversary." Humanity's leaders stood silent for a moment, absorbing the weight of the IRVAL's words. They understood that this moment would define the future of the galaxy. If they could convince the IRVAL of their worth, a new era of peace and prosperity could begin, one where cooperation, not conquest, was the foundation of galactic order. "If we are to be your allies," Dr. Quinn said, "we offer you this. Let us show you that the true strength lies not in conquering the galaxy, but in exploring its vastness together. We have the will to survive, but we also have the will to build." The IRVAL, enigmatic and ancient, considered her words carefully. They had never formed alliances with other species, always believing that their advanced technology and superior capabilities made them self-sufficient. But something in humanity's approach, something in their words, sparked a sense of possibility. Could this small, fragile species truly change the fabric of the galaxy? The IRVAL made their decision. They would extend an offer of cooperation to humanity, not as rulers, but as partners. They would provide humanity with the means to explore the deepest corners of the universe, to unlock the secrets of spacetime, and to push beyond the limits of their world. The Deathworlders, for the first time, found themselves not as conquerors, but as collaborators. This new alliance between humanity and the IRVAL was a paradigm shift, a vision of a galaxy united not by strength alone, but by a shared desire to reach new frontiers. As the years passed, humanity's influence spread even further, and more species, once content to live in isolation, began to see the wisdom in cooperation. Humanity had shown the galaxy that survival was not just about fighting, it was about adapting, evolving, and working together to thrive. The Deathworlders, once supreme and unchallenged, now found themselves questioning everything they had ever known. The galaxy was no longer theirs alone. It was a place of limitless potential, and humanity had proven that they were not only capable of surviving, it was their destiny to reshape the very nature of existence itself. End of Part 3. Title: Believing They Were Alone. The Galaxy's Deathworlders Encounter Humanity, HFY, Sci-Fi Stories, Part 4. The galaxy had changed irrevocably. What had once been a place dominated by Deathworlders, creatures of unimaginable strength and cunning, was now transforming into a complex web of alliances, each built on cooperation and mutual respect. Humanity, once seen as nothing more than a fragile species on the brink of extinction, had risen to become the central force in this new era. They had not only survived, but thrived by tapping into the potential of unity, innovation, and adaptability. And now, the Deathworlders had to learn to coexist with the humans they had once underestimated. However, the balance was delicate. Not all Deathworlders were convinced that humanity's rise was a force for good. Some, embittered by their losses, began to consider their next move. Among these was the Orthan, a race of reptilian beings whose planet had long been known for its deadly ecosystems. The Orthan were survivors, bred from a culture of war, and they had long prided themselves on their strength and superiority. The rise of humanity, and their willingness to form alliances rather than conquer, filled the Orthan with disdain. They believed the galaxy was theirs by right, and they would not surrender it to the likes of humanity or their so-called peaceful alliances. The Orthan were not the only ones questioning the changes sweeping the galaxy. The Svarth, a brutal, hive-minded species from the war-torn planet Sgar, had watched humanity's progress with suspicion. To the Svarth, who valued survival of the fittest and the dominance of the strongest, humanity's rejection of pure strength seemed like heresy. They saw humanity as a threat to the natural order of things, a species that could never be allowed to rise beyond the borders of their homeworld. A faction of the Orthan and Svarth, united by their disdain for humanity's vision of peace, began to secretly form a coalition. Their plan was simple: to strike before humanity could consolidate its power further. They would target the weaker members of the alliances, planets that had already embraced humanity's ideals, and send a clear message: not all species would accept humanity's new order. The first strike came without warning. A small, distant colony world, known for its strategic location and its ties to the human-led Intergalactic Council, was attacked by an alliance of Orthan and Svarth warships. They obliterated the human defenses with swift brutality, leaving the planet in chaos. Thousands of civilians perished, and the remaining survivors were scattered across the cosmos. Desperate for aid, the news spread like wildfire, and the galaxy held its breath. Humanity, once again, found itself at a crossroads. The death of innocence, the destruction of a peaceful world, it was a blow not just to their pride, but to the very ideals they had built their new galactic vision upon. But humanity did not falter. General Caleb Wright, now one of the foremost leaders of the human military, stood before the council as a sense of determination filled the air. "This is not just an attack on one world," he said, his voice resolute. "This is an attack on everything we stand for. The galaxy is at a crossroads, and we have a choice. We can either give in to fear and division, or we can show that the strength of humanity isn't in how we fight, but how we rise from adversity." Dr. Ilara Quinn, ever the diplomat, stood by his side. "We must stand together, not just for our own survival, but for the survival of the peace we've worked so hard to build. We won't let the galaxy fall back into the chaos it once knew." The choice was clear. Humanity would not be intimidated, and they would not be broken. But this time, they would fight not just with weapons, but with the same ideals that had won them allies and reshaped the galaxy. They would show the galaxy that their strength lay not in their power to destroy, but in their power to build, and to protect what they had fought so hard to achieve. In the wake of the attack, humanity's allies rallied to their side. The Korvan, the Tren, and even the Irval, the enigmatic race that had once considered humanity a potential threat, stood with them. The galaxy was watching, and it was clear that this new alliance was no longer a fragile one. It was a united front, a force that had already begun to change the way the galaxy viewed strength and survival. The Orthan and Svarth coalition had miscalculated. They had underestimated humanity's resolve, their ability to inspire unity even in the face of overwhelming adversity. The galaxy's Deathworlders, once so certain of their dominance, now found themselves fighting not just against a species, but against an idea, a belief in a better way forward. The next battle would be decisive. The fleet of humanity's allies, led by the combined forces of the Irval and Korvan, mobilized quickly. They had been preparing for this moment since the first signs of conflict had emerged. The humans, with their technological advancements and tactical genius, had ensured that every battle would be fought with precision. The Korvan's amphibious tactics would prove invaluable in any watery environment, while the Tren's ability to manipulate gravity gave them a distinct edge in space combat. But it was humanity's cunning and their leadership that would turn the tide. They didn't fight for conquest, they fought for something more profound, the preservation of peace. The decisive battle occurred in the orbit of the former colony world, now in ruins. The Orton and Svarth, despite their advanced weaponry and raw power, couldn't match the unity and adaptability of the human-led coalition. The humans had anticipated their every move, using their knowledge of the terrain, the enemy's tactics, and their own resources to deliver a crushing blow. General Wright and Dr. Quinn stood together on the command bridge, watching the battle unfold. The Orton and Svarth fleet was faltering. Their ships, once so sure of their strength, were now retreating. The tide had turned. "We won't stop here," General Wright said, his eyes fixed on the screen. "This is about more than just a victory. This is about showing the galaxy that the future belongs to those who adapt, who work together, and who fight not for domination, but for a future worth protecting." With the battle won, the coalition's forces began their recovery operations on the devastated colony world, helping to rebuild what had been lost. The message was sent loud and clear: humanity had no intention of allowing the forces of division and chaos to tear apart the galaxy they had worked so hard to unite. The Orton and Svarth would never forget the lesson they had learned. Their attempt to crush humanity's ideals had only made them stronger. The Deathworlders, for all their might and terror, now saw something they had never expected: their reign was ending, and a new order was rising from the ashes of their arrogance. And at the heart of that new order was humanity, not as conquerors, but as guardians of a united galaxy, where survival meant not domination, but the shared strength of every species working together. The galaxy had indeed changed, and humanity, once thought to be a fleeting curiosity, was now its unshakable backbone. End of Part 4.